Okay, so I guess we are live now, and there. So there. Okay. Hi all. Sorry for being late. It's just arranging things with VS Code and everything, and OBS takes
Okay,
time.
so I guess
Sorry for that.
we are live now.
And now, what we are gonna do is we are gonna see Vue.js right from start, from basics till the end. So if at any point of time you're unable to hear me, or if my screen is doing some random stuff, or you're not able to see things properly, just pop it in the chat. Don't worry, I'm going to record the video, and if the live stream doesn't go well, I'll re-record it for you guys. Don't worry. It's just my first time, so I'm just juggling around with things, but sorry for being late again. So before we go, let me tell you what is Vue.js. So Vue.js is a JavaScript framework which helps you to build modern web applications. So I'll just show you a quick. I'll just give a quick example. Suppose if I want to make, say, a website for, like, say, a calculator. So if I do it with a traditional way, every time I do an operation like 5 plus 5 equal to 6, if I use a form type of thing like the form element in HTML, then what happens is for every new answer or every new request, I have to fetch the entire page. So if I want to do 5 plus 5 only, instead of just getting 10, I have to get the entire thing, like this 127.0.0.1 colon 8080, like entire page as it is. So in today's world, this is kind of taking a lot of time if your website is heavy. But what if you just want 5 plus 5, and you just want to render that 10, nothing else, only the 10. So in that case, JavaScript come handy. It helps you to dynamically render things, and it allows you to render only those things which are required. When I say render, it's refreshing or just like adding a new things, only those things that's required. Now with JavaScript, there is again a problem with plain JavaScript. When it comes to DOM manipulation, like the element manipulation and everything, it's totally cumbersome. So there are frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue.js, and today we are going to see Vue.js, which makes our life super simple in having a modern web application which is very much reactive, very much dynamic, and it's very, very easy to learn. So without further ado, let's begin. So I'm not sure if you're able to see my browser. So you need to make sure before you start with Vue, you need to have Node.js installed. Node.js is it's nothing but a JavaScript on server side. So as we will be dealing with npm to install lots of packages and everything, you need to make sure that Node.js is installed. Second, so after Node.js, you need to make sure that your Vue CLI is installed. So Vue CLI is Vue command line interface. So whatever I have to do, say like installing a package or creating a Vue project or whatever, Vue CLI is the best tool. I won't be dwelling in everything in detail because our main focus is seeing Vue basics, and in 1 hour it's very difficult to fit. But for sure, the bootcamp is there, so you can see the link in the chat or in the description and join the bootcamp. So next we will see Vue 3 today, and if time permits, we are going to see the composition API. So for now, just remember this word, and if it comes, you know what it is. So before we begin, we are going to see the options API. So in whatever, if you are new to Vue.js, but if you have already used Vue before, whatever you're doing so far, it was all options API. But if you are new to Vue.js, I will show you what option API is. So we will see the option API first, and then slowly, we will take it step by step forward. So before we begin, I'll show you what to do. So once you install Vue CLI, you need to create a Vue project. You can just, so if I open the terminal in my here, in my VS Code, just close this. I just need to type after installing Node.js, after installing Vue CLI, you need to make sure that all these two are correctly installed. Then you need to simply type Vue, create, and the name of your project. So I have already created this because trust me, it takes time to compile the files and everything. So have the things quicker. I just created a new project, but I'll show you the steps how to do it. So for the new project, I will say Vue create new project, and then oh, sorry, it's already there, so I need to do something different. Say new project one. Oh, sorry, need to go out. CD. Cool. So I'll just clear this. View, create, end project. Something here. Okay, so it's just using PowerShell. If you're able to see my terminal over here for any by any chance, okay. If not, I'll just do this. Cool. So just drag it over here. Cool. So here in the CMD in the Windows terminal, if I go out and if I say View, create new project, something like this, it will wait and ask me for further options. So it asks me first, like, so previously it wasn't working because it was in PowerShell and this is CMD, so it's a bit different. So make sure you're using CMD. If you're on Windows, on Mac, it has its own command line interface. So here, if you want to do it very fast track, you can do it with Vue 3. Uh, I would suggest go with Vue 3 because it's new and it's better to stick with something which is stable and new. But if you want to select features manually, you just need to go select manually features. And then before you choose view version, make sure you choose these things first. I will explain them in like just in one line because explaining them all in detail can be difficult. So Babel is something you can imagine like it's for compiling your JavaScript in the browsers. So whenever you open a website or the JavaScript needs to be compiled. So Babel makes sure that the JavaScript is compiled for older version and the newer version as well. TypeScript, it's just the language or it's a scripting language. Progressive web app support. So generally, when you're doing a progressive web app, so the progressive web app is something which feels like a native app and it's actually a web app only. So if you want to do that, there are some JSON files involved and everything. So if you choose this option, to choose the option, by the way, you just need to press spacebar, and if you want to deselect it, spacebar again. So it creates those all module files and everything. Router. So whenever you navigate to a website, you will have like say google.com. So google.com is a URL, and slash after that, all those are like queries or parameters or whatever you call it. Those things fetches us new pages. So what router in Vue.js does is it makes sure that your URL parsing or your URL direction is taken care of, redirection is taken care of. So that's router is there for. If you are from React and if you are sure about the Redux, Vuex is something similar to that. CSS preprocessors is generally to compile CSS files or SCSS files. Linter and formatter is to just to make sure that your JavaScript is syntactically correct, and all these are unit testing thing. So uh, I'm I'm not sure if the time permits, but I'll still stick with the router, and I'll explain you once if there is extra time, or I'll just explain you. No worries. So after this, you need to choose the view version. So press enter, 3.x, and then it will start creating the new project. So we will just jump out of this for now and we will go back to our project. So just give me a moment, I'll close this. Right, so we are here and this is over here, right? over here. Cool. So slash and cd project. Cool. So now we see what happens once we click like follow the step. We get a project something like this. So step by step, I'll show you the node directory, sorry, the project directory. So the first one is a node modules. So node modules, you can consider like whatever packages or libraries or like the JavaScript libraries or packages you install, all are dumped in this node modules. Public is the folder which we will be interacting much with. So let's see what is index.html. So the main thing about Vue is it is best suited, or actually it is more like best for single page applications. So what a single page application is, you have one HTML file and you render other pages dynamically. So for instance, say, let's take example of this Vue CLI page. So suppose this guide, config, plugins, migrations, etc. These are all separate links or pages. If it's a single page application, I will just have one HTML file and all this will be rendered once I click on them. So that is single page application. The SRC folder, it is the main folder where you should have your JavaScript. So whenever you run a Vue project, the first file or the main file is this main.js. So how it works is, so we import create app function. So it's a Vue function in Vue 3 only. So that create app takes some certain parameters. So that parameters are nothing but the component. I'll explain you what the component is. And the router, I'll explain you in a bit. But just for now, ignore this line and straight away. So I will just comment this out and I'll just show you exactly what is happening here. And if I just remove this, cool. So create app dot mount slash app. So what's happening here? So if I open my index.html again, here you will see like div id app. So we have a div element with id app, and from now on, whenever we render Vue components or pages or whatever, everything is gonna go inside this div tag, this id slash id div with id app. So whatever we are gonna write now, whatever is gonna happen, it's gonna happen between this div tag. So what does this mean is, create my component, which is this, and mount it in this div with id app. So that's in one line. This is what it means in simple words. If I go again over here and just comment this out, this means create my component or create app with this component app, and use the router functionalities in my this component or this app, and mount that all over here in this div with id app. So let's, after we are done with this, let's see what is inside app.vue. So we are getting app from app.vue. So app.vue in Vue.js is nothing but, it's either you can consider one single page or a component. So when I say a one single page, going back to our single page application thing, so we have one index.html and each page like about or home, everything. So I'll just quickly run this project. So I guess in that way I can explain it more easily. So once this is run, we'll just reload this and see how it goes. Okay, so let's quickly have a reload. So here is our Vue project. So this home and this about, these are like two separate pages rendered in one HTML file only. It might be a bit complicated to understand, but you can just say like, in traditional applications, we write home.html, about.html, etc. For everything, we write separate HTML. But here, what we are doing, we are just writing one index.html, and in everything, like in that index.html, dynamically we are rendering our files. So when I say app.vue, what is this app.vue is? This is the entire page. like right from okay, so I'll just try to, yeah, so if I take it over here and this over here, okay, so right from this, like this entire is app.view. Okay, so in short, a .view file, you can consider it one whole dynamically rendered page, or you can consider it as a component. So what are components? I'll tell about it in a moment, but let's see what we have in app.view. So we have here one div. Before that, we have template. Then we have a style tag, and that's it. But also we will require a script tag, which we will see in other components page. But now let's focus on template and style. So what's happening here is in Vue, there are three components. Or sorry, three. If I use word component, it might be confusing. So there are three parts. First is HTML, second is CSS, and JavaScript. So all this is specific to that one single page or component. Okay. What happens is whenever we compile the pages, or whenever the components, the Vue components are compiled by all those amazing packages that we explore, that we install while creating the project, what happens is this all, it's compiled properly and stacked properly on web page automatically. So the HTML part with whatever styling we have given. So if you are new to CSS, or if you are if you have if you are aware with HTML or CSS, so I guess that would be easy to understand. Like the HTML part, it has each HTML part can be styled with CSS styling. So all those HTML part, the CSS, and the JavaScript associated with it all gets compiled and works properly. So what's happening here is we have, so the syntax here is, first we need a template tag, which is, so this is all going to be an HTML thing, a template tag. In that template tag, we need to make sure, I'll just make sure if everything is going well. Okay. So in that template tag, what's going to happen is whenever, so one template you can consider, as I said, one component. So it needs to have at least one div tag, at least one div tag, or at least one component. If you are in Vue 3, then at least one component. If you are in Vue 2 and before, then one div tag. So let's focus on Vue 3 so it won't get confusing. So this is that one div tag, and it has this router links. So what it is this home refers to this home over here, this about refers to this about over here, and whatever this router view is, whatever components we will be rendering dynamically, this router view will replace that specific component only. So for instance, let's see the components first, what components we have, and then we will see what we are gonna check later. So in views, we have about.view. So this home is nothing but this home.view. This home over here is nothing but this home.view. This about is nothing but this about.view. Okay, so home.view, about.view, and in components we have the subsections of each page. So for instance, this hello world.view, this is one component which starts from over here. So if you see this message, so this one, I'll explain this bit by bit, but first just for understanding, this one from here till here, this is all hello world.view. This thing we are rendering in home.view. Okay, so we have a big page home.view. Inside that we have a subsection hello world.view, in simple words. So this means you can nest components inside components. Okay, so that's one thing. Secondly, if I go to again app.view, again back over here, you will see this is router link. So what is router link? Let's go for that into router folder, in that index.js. So as I said, router make sure that all your redirections and components rendering is taken care of very smoothly. Okay, so what happens is if I click on about over here, you will see there is 127.0.0.1 slash about. So what does this mean is whenever the URL has slash about over here, so path is this, then the name of that object is about, or name of that component is about, and what component we have to render. So you can render components in two ways, either by straight away passing the component after importing it, or with a callback function like this. So import function with the name of the component or the path to the component. Okay, so we'll see step by step what's happening over here. So first we are creating a routes object. Okay, it's an array actually. So in that array we are passing two JSON objects. So each JSON object has three parameters. The first parameter is path. So path specifies the URL. So if you are coming from the Laravel world or Django or anywhere, in Laravel you might have seen web.php where you have route get slash blah blah blah. Same in Vue JS, or in even if you are coming from plain HTML or CSS world, you will see form and there is in the actions slash and then file name, something like that. So all these are routes. This path refers to those routes. So this above is the path over here. If I go to home page, as this is the root path or the first path or my landing page, I should just keep it as a slash. Okay, so forward slash forward, yeah. So that's the first parameter. Second is the name of the component, and third most important thing is the component itself. So as I said, you can either use component first import it and then put it over here. So what does this import statement mean is import home, like the home. So if I go to home in home.view, in views home.view, so I'm exporting something from here. So whatever it's coming from here, this export, I am save this, whatever is coming from here, I want that to be imported over here in the index.js. So whatever coming from home.view, I want to import it in the index.js. So how will I do it? First, I will export it from here, and then over here, I will say that import home from views home.view, like the path. So one dot means in the same directory, two dots means a directory above. So currently I'm in the router directory. So if I use one dot, it will search for this home.view in this router directory. If I use two dots, that means it will go one directory up. So it will go in this src directory, like the parent directory, and then it will search in this views and then home.view. So that's the naming convention. Next, so before that we have create router and create web history from Vue router. So Vue router is a package which handles all these routing mechanisms. There are other packages as well which you can use with Vue, but Vue router is like mostly preferred. So what this create router is doing is it's nothing but a function which takes two parameters. So first one is the history. So what history refers to is like whenever I refer to this, whenever I visit to a URL, this part is the history, or the URL or that part is the history. So in Vue 2, if you remember, if you're coming from Vue 2, there was like hashtag whenever you refer to the new thing, and you have to specifically remove that, like make some changes in the history, and then the hashtag used to go off. But here you just need to use the create web history function and it takes care of everything. The second parameter we pass in this function object is the routes. So this routes. So whatever array we have, we will pass over here. So what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that from all these things, it will create the router functionality for us. So create router, you can simple words consider that creating the router functionality for us, and that we are exporting it to be used in other files. So where we are using it in the main.js. So going back to our app.view again over here. So what does this mean is as I'm importing in main.js and I'm using this like globally. So .use router means I have that app with router functionalities as well. So I can use it globally anywhere. So what this is doing is router link is exactly similar to the anchor tag of HTML. So a tag. So router link, it's a component. Two means it's a props. I will show you what our props are. So the path, like if it's slash, then it should go to whatever directory it is or whatever component it is, and if it's about, to that component. So this is how router link in brief works. If you want to know more about it, make sure to go to my boot camp, and then I'm going to explain it in entire detail. So after this, okay, so we saw the Vue router. Now let's see the magic of Vue. Okay, so let's go to hello world.view, and here you will see that there is a bunch of things happening. So for simplicity, I'll just keep this h1 tag and let's work from that. So I'll just remove this, and let's remove this as well. Boom. And if I save it, you'll see everything is gone from over here. So that's like dynamically rendering without refreshing the page. But as I'm using the Vue server, so that's why it's dynamic. It's refreshing without, like, it's like fast refresh, but without me having to click over here and reload it. But in reality, it works like this only, that you need to click reload, of course, but the thing is it renders dynamically whenever the changes happen. Like the first thing is reload, and then anything after that, it's all dynamic. So let's see what we have here. So first thing we have is the template that we saw what is like the structure of Vue file is. So first is the HTML, CSS, and script. So JavaScript, you can have this in any order, but make sure that you just follow the clean order of HTML, script, and styling. So we saw this is the HTML part. So we have one div with h1 tag message, and here in the script we are exporting something. So this is what I was referring to at the start as options API. So what we are doing is we are passing like lots of JSON objects, so that we are passing in short, we are passing lots of options to be considered when we render a component. So here, if I go to home.view where I'm using hello world, you will see I have a props over here, message. So what is props? Props are actually the way of passing data from here. So the first component is a parent, and the component inside it is known as child. So it's a way of passing data from parent to child. Okay, so I want to pass something like welcome to your Vue.js app, and I want to render it in this child component of hello world.view, which is coming over here. So suppose if I change the message here, I say welcome to our live stream. Let's see what happens. You'll see the message over here is changed as well. So whatever we pass over here as a prop, it's rendered or reflected over here. So how does it help is, first let's start it from first. We just simply say props. So key value pair, it's gonna be an object, and I want what props I'm passing over here, message MSG. So I'll just say MSG, and I want it to be either like, I just need to have it a value or a type. So I'll say it's going to be a string. So just a type. Okay, let's have another prop. So let's say I want a message to, so msg 2 or 2, yeah, something like this, and let's say it's gonna be a blank string, something like this. Okay, and over here, so we are having an error because it should be a constructor. Oh, sorry. So sorry, it should be a type. Sorry, I got confused with it with the data thing. Sorry. So let's go over here, and it should be a type. It always should be a type. And let's pass it to the component. So MSG, is it one? Yes, it's one. And let's say Vue JS string, and let's try to have it over here. MSG one. Oh, sorry, one. So, oh, sorry, it's two. Sorry, it's two. Sorry. So this should be true as well. There we go. We have Vue JS string. Cool. So we saw what our props are. Now let's see what is data. Okay. So okay, let's see. So we saw how to pass data from parent to child. Now what if we want data or variables to be used in the same component only? So how we will do it is we will use a function like this data which returns whatever we want to use in this HTML, whatever. So suppose if I have say message 3, yeah, message 3 say, so msg3, and let's give it, oh sorry, it needs to return something. So this one, it should return something back. So if I say msg3, and let's give it some value like say third message, and if I want to put it over here, what I will do is I'll just simply h1 and just simply do msg3. Cool. So we have our third message here. So you can consider data as whatever variables we want to use, we put it over here. Now let's do some magic with a counter. So we will have two buttons. One button is for incrementing the number and one button is to decrement the number. Okay, so let's remove all this from here. We don't need props, nothing. We don't need data, and let's do it from, or you know what, let's create a new component straight away. That's best. So there will be an error, of course, because I mess up with things here, but let's remove this and let's, so delete, yes, and let's create a new component. So inside the component, let's say counter dot view. Okay, and here let's, instead of this, let's say counter, and here we are importing it from @ means straight to the src folder, to the root folder, so components, and from there we are importing counter dot view. Let's have its name to be counter again, so oh, sorry, and let's do here counter. Okay, and cool. So let's go back to the counter again, and let's see, so we need the component but not used. Okay, no worries. So counter, and here let's put it like this, counter. So as you could see, the logo has gone. I'll tell you why, but the main thing is, as you could see here, so first we imported the component in a main component. So home.view is our main component, and we imported it over here. And if we want to use it inside our component, what we do is we pass it as an option over here, like a second option, which is known as list of components. So counter is one of the components, and I want to use that. Now let's go to counter and let's do a template and our script. So let's, from here we have name counter. Oh, sorry, I guess I changed the name over here. No, it shouldn't be changed over here. It should be name home only. Sorry, creating blunders. Okay, and we need to have one div element. So I just click a refresh, and we are back again with everything. So let's here now. What we want is we want a button, number, button. So one for increment, one for decrement. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So we'll have a button, and let's give for increment, and let's have another button for decrement, and between these two buttons I want my counter. So as I'm using counter over here, I need to declare it, and I need to declare it in the script, and then I can use it over here. So how will I do that? With options API, where I'll just do data function or return function, sorry, a return object, and in that I want to have counter with the initial value of 0. So let's see what we are getting here. So we are having a button, and we are having 0 and plus minus thing. So now here's the magic. If you do with JavaScript, you need to do something like Windows or dot add event listener load, and then you add an event listener to that button after that. Or if you are doing inline JavaScript, you do like button at the rate, sorry, not at the rate, it's gonna be on click equal to the function you want to call. But in Vue, how we do it is we just say at the rate click. So it's something like instead of on click, we have at the rate click. Okay, so at the rate click. And so when I click on this plus, sorry, in this plus button, I want to call a function or I want to execute a function. So I'll just pass here the function name, which is increment, which we will create shortly. In the same way, for decrement, I want a, or a minus button, I want another function. So here I would say decrement, if I'm spelling it correctly, I think so. So that's true. And let's go over here. And now, as I'm using these two functions, now I need to declare them in my script. So that I will do it with methods. So make sure first thing first, this key or this function or this key value things, this keys needs to be as it is, and this function name needs to be as it is. You cannot use something like capital data, it needs to be small data, something like that. It's a Vue thing. Okay, so we will pass a methods object. Okay, so our first method is going to be the increment. It can be in any order, but as we are going in order here, we'll go with something like that. So I will say increment and the function, and then what it is going to do is it's just gonna increment my counter by 1. Okay, so I will say this, so I want to use this counter, so this dot counter equal to this dot counter plus 1. I can use a shorthand method of plus equal to 1, but just for simplicity and everyone should understand, so I'll using it like this dot counter is equal to this dot counter plus 1. Let's see what's happening over here. So if I go over here and let's say, oh, see, without a page refresh, the counter is getting incremented. Not a single page refresh at all. That's what I meant in the start, like 5 plus 5. I want only 10. I don't want the entire page back again. So now let's go to other thing, decrement. So we declare the increment. Now let's declare the decrement. So if you see like the curly braces, it's nothing but the object, and each of in that there are like list of functions. So decrement, and in that what I want is exactly the same thing, but I want this to be -1. Okay, so let's save this back to 0 again, 1, and cool, it's getting decremented, it's getting incremented. Simple counter functionality, no rocket science in that. Now let's do a bit of let's add a bit of complexity in this. Okay, so what I want is whenever my counter reaches below 0, I want this text to be red. Whenever my counter is between 0 to 10, I want it to be orange, and above 10 I want it to be green. Okay, so first thing first, for that let's have some style. So we will do a scope style. Okay, so when I use the scoped over here, this means whatever styles or whatever CSS style I will give, it will be only limited to counter component only, not even to the parent, only to the counter component. Okay, so let's see. So for red, like I will just use like if you are aware with the CSS class, so dot red is red class and the color is red, like the font color. For let's say orange or amber, I'll just use orange. And for green, it is font color is green. Okay, so we have here so far we are all good. Now what we want is the counter, remember, below 0 red, 0 to 10 orange, and 10 above green. Okay, so here I'm going to introduce you to something known as v directives, which is v if and else. Okay, there are several directives like vshow, v-for. We'll try to cover in 10 minutes as much as possible. Let's go do it quickly. Okay, so if you're new to the programming language, or so it's v if and v else is nothing but if this If a condition is true, do this, else do this. Same in any programming language, we have if else loop. So it's same if and else do the exactly the same thing. Okay, so let's see what we have with if. Okay, so I'll copy this counter as it is, or just cut paste it, and I'll take it in a span. So span and the counter, and I want here v if show this one when counter is less than 0. Okay, and counter is less than 0, and the class for this is red. Okay, let's do the same thing, and let's have it one more v if, and if the counter is greater than equal to 10, I want it to be green, and for all other things, I think else I'll just use as it is, v else, this will be orange. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. Okay, now we have our thing to be red. If I go below this, oops, the number, oh, because of the vs it's coming like that, so this is not correct. So let's do if again. Okay, classic example, what's happening here. So what's happening here is it's taking this condition. Okay, the counter is less than 2, so it's printing that. Now it's going here, the counter is not greater than 10, so it's not showing this, because if means if this condition is true, then show this tag, this span tag. If this condition is false, don't show this span tag. And here what's happening is the counter is, so as this condition is false, it's coming over here. So how if and else work is, whenever there is a if, the immediate else will be considered as an alternative condition for that previous if. So this else refers to this one. So what we will do is we will again, so we see what is else. Let's do it if again over here. So what we want is whenever the counter is between 0 to 10. So counter greater than 0. So yeah, one thing I forgot to tell you, whenever we use any v directive, everything in that code is nothing but simple JavaScript statements, nothing else. So I can use something like and counter, sorry, this should be greater than 0, and counter less than 10. Cool. So here let's increase, let's go down, red, turn orange, oh, it's orange now, and green. Cool. So as you could see, like depending on the condition, yeah, depending on whatever condition I give, it becomes the color changes automatically. Okay, now what if I want something like, say, counter less than 10 red, counter greater than 10, I want it to be green. Okay, simple, less than 10 red, greater than 10 green. Okay, in this I can simply bind the counter to one span tag if it has two conditions, less than 10 red, greater than 10 green. So what I will do is I'll just remove this, and I can dynamically render this class. Okay, here we will see data binding. So I want to bind my counter to this class, so I will just put a colon. Okay, so colon class means now whatever this is, it's nothing but a JavaScript. So if I remove the colon, you will see it becomes a string, like this is some reddish color, and if I just put a colon, it becomes a JavaScript. Now it's treated, the red is treated as a variable. So how it's gonna work is, we will say counter if it's less than 10. If you are new to ternary operator, so how ternary operators work is, there is a condition, so counter less than 10 is a condition, and there is a question mark. So if that condition is true, whatever is after question mark is printed. If that condition is false, whatever after the colon is printed. So here we will have less than 10 will be red, and after the colon mean this. If this condition is not true, this should be green. Okay, so these are just CSS class. We are rendering it dynamically. So if you see, okay, I'll just give you some I'll just give some space here, NBSP, so that the number is visible. It's too tight over there. NBSP. Okay, okay, so there's some space. Now let's do minus. Okay, this is working great. Let's see if it goes be about 10, and it's green. So as you could see, with just two conditions, you don't need to use if. You can just straight away bind it, your CSS properties or thing. Sorry, you can bind the your JavaScript variables to the any HTML properties like class, and you can render the class dynamically like this. If I have to do this same with JavaScript, I need to get the element, like document that query selector, get the element with ID or class, then check it. If it's below 10, about 10, then switch it with class list dot add, remove, all those stuffs. But in Vue, you just do it with one, like literally one line, less than a one line, I would say, half line. So yeah, so that's how it works. Like all the DOM manipulation, everything is taken very well care of with Vue JS. So as I started 5 minutes late, I will extend a bit for another 5 minutes, and now I will show you something with the input. Okay, so I want I want input box, and whatever I type in that, I want it to be dynamically bounded. Okay, so we saw one type of data binding. Now let's see other type of data binding, which is with which is with like whatever input we take, the output is reflected automatically. Okay, and vice versa. So two-way data binding. Okay, so let's see that. Let's have an input over here with text, and let's give a BR, so like a break line, sorry. And okay, so now we have an input. Oops, let's give another BR. Okay, so we have an input over here, and then whatever I type, I want that to be printed immediately after that. Okay, so I'll just give another BR so that there are more spaces. And here, I'll just print my whatever I will type here. So what I will do is I'll take a data like this, and let's say my name. So, or let's take a random name. So not name, it's a defined variable. So let's do let's a random variables text one, and let's have it as an empty string. Okay, so we have a text one over here. Now if we want to use it over here, so in input type, how we will do is we will use v model. So this is another way of data binding. Okay, so what v model does is it's only for the input elements or input tags of HTML. It's not applicable for other tags as far as I know. So only for input tags you can use v model. I will say bind this input, whatever I type in this input, bind this input with this text one. Okay, so text one, and whatever I type, I want that text one to come over here. Okay, so let's see. My name is Aditya. Oops, I cannot spell my name correct. Okay, Aditya. So my name is Aditya. Whatever I type here, it's printed over here dynamically. No need of page refresh, nothing. No inner HTML, nothing. It's all taken care for you under the hood. So if I go further, this is amazing. Da, 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 da. So whatever I type, it's reflected over here. And in the same way, whatever I type over here, let's say, as now if I save this, so this is blank, and if I want this, like this text to be reflected in my input value, I will just simply say my name is Aditya, and you could see like it's reflected here. So this is two-way data binding. So what you input, you get it as an output, and what is you're referring in your JavaScript variable, you can bind it back again. So this is two-way data binding. So I guess we are pretty much done for today. As I said, like the next 5-10 minutes will be for Q&A. So I hope there will be some Q&A. If you have any questions or something, feel free to shoot it in the chat. Like whatever questions you have, feel free to put it in over here, and I'll just have a look and just see. Any questions? If not, I'll just end it up. So I guess no questions so far. So thank you all for joining me, and sorry for being late again. And oh, we have a comment. Excellent stuff. Keep rocking. Oh, thank you. So hope you all like this stream. Hope you enjoyed this stream. And thanks again for joining in. And if you're interested in detailed Vue.js thing, just join my bootcamp. The link is in the chat or in the description as well. And if you have any queries or something like that, I will try to put the recorded video as well back again. You can put it in the comment and I will just answer your comments there. So till then, hope you have an amazing time. Take care. Bye.